Good morning, Guardians. Briar Rabbit here. Today, we've got a ton of news to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about the PlayStation Pro. We're going to talk about a new Game Informer article detailing how multiplayer games will work on the new hardware. And we've also got some Destiny news at the end of the show. So let's start off with the PlayStation Pro. Sony announced the new PlayStation Pro hardware yesterday, and I gotta be honest with you, there were some mixed reactions. The new hardware will feature double the graphical power of the original PlayStation, and we'll be able to game in 4K, and will have HDR graphic capabilities. It will also feature improved graphics if you're playing on a 1080p TV, and feature improved graphics if you're using a PlayStation VR headset. There were some really mixed reactions to the PlayStation announcement. One, obviously the hardware doesn't look all that great. I think they kind of missed the mark on both the PlayStation 4 Slim and the PlayStation 4 Pro. As far as hardware design goes, it was, I think, especially telling because it was right after an Apple event where they showed off a brand new iPhone, which looked really sleek, really beautiful. Then we see the new PlayStation, and it just looks like two PlayStations kind of duct taped together or stacked up on one another. It does not look great. Also, because they were streaming the event in 1080p, they really could not show how good these games would look in 4K with HDR graphics turned on. If you don't have a 4K TV that also is compatible with HDR, you're just not going to be able to see these differences. They did upload some of the gameplay trailers to YouTube. You can view them there in 4K, and I gotta say, especially Horizon Zero Dawn looked spectacular in 4K. 4K really gives you a level of detail, a level of resolution, a level of clarity that you just don't get with 1080p. 1080p is still very good. 4K, it really blows it away. If you do have a friend who's maybe got a 4K monitor on his computer or a 4K TV, I highly suggest checking that out. It was really hard for Sony to convey how good the jump is from 4K with HDR from 1080p. 1080p still looks good, but 4K, it's definitely a huge step forward, but it's really hard to convey when you're trying to show that to somebody who's watching on an iPhone or a 1080p TV or monitor. I think it's going to be really hard for Sony and Microsoft in the future to really convey what the leap looks like from 1080p to 4K. That being said, I feel like Sony actually missed the mark on a couple of levels. The PlayStation Slim to me is a no-sell. It's actually got less features than the original PlayStation. If you use the optical port on the back of your PlayStation for, say, a headset or a stereo surround sound system, you're actually losing that functionality if you buy the PlayStation Slim. It's not like the Xbox Slim where it adds more features, it adds more hardware. It's just a smaller version of the PlayStation 4. When you compare the PlayStation 4 Slim to the Xbox One Slim, the Xbox One Slim offers 4K support, it offers Ultra HD Blu-ray, it has a bunch of new features to it that kind of upsells it over the original Xbox One, where the PlayStation Slim actually has fewer features. In regards to the PlayStation 4 Pro, it is definitely going to be the most powerful hardware out there for an entire year, but it's not going to be nearly as powerful as Project Scorpio, which we expect about this time next year. PlayStation is going to really have a graphical lead for a year, but it takes longer for that for developers to really harness hardware. If you look at launch games compared to games that are 2 or 3 years down the line after the launch of a system, you can see a huge graphical jump. The PlayStation Pro is not going to get that benefit. There's still going to be launch hardware shipping for that thing when the Scorpio comes out. If the Scorpio can come out with its higher graphical fidelity and more power, it has a real chance to take over PlayStation's huge lead right now. I'm a little concerned for PlayStation. Don't know if the PlayStation Pro is going to be enough to maintain their lead moving forward, or if the Xbox Project Scorpio is really just going to wipe the floor. We'll have to see. It's going to be an interesting year to watch consoles. For me, I'm console agnostic. I really could care less which console I'm playing on. I like both consoles. I don't care about either company, and I don't think either company cares about me. I'm just about which one's going to give me the best experience. And to me, just based on tech specs, the Xbox One looks much more powerful than the PlayStation Pro, but you gotta wait a year to get it. Of course, I'm getting the PlayStation Pro. I can't wait to get it. It's coming out in 2 months. I've already pre-ordered mine, and I will definitely show it off once I get it. Speaking of the PlayStation 4 Pro, Game Informer released an article talking about multiplayer games and how they won't have higher frame rates on the PlayStation 4 Pro. So if you're hoping that if you upgrade to the PlayStation 4 Pro, you'll be running certain games at 60 frames per second in multiplayer as opposed to 30 frames per second in multiplayer, Destiny, I'm looking at you, that's not gonna happen. It's too hard for the developers to implement, and it gives too much of an unfair advantage to the player on the newer hardware. PlayStation 4 Pro owners can expect higher graphical fidelity inside of multiplayer games. So that may be a small advantage, but it's certainly not the advantage that 60 frames per second over 30 frames per second could give you. Finally, some Destiny news. Today, Destiny servers will be down for maintenance starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. The servers are expected to be down for about 8 hours, and while they're down, players will be able to download update 2.4.0, but will not be able to play until the servers are back up. This update is probably going to be pretty huge. I expect that it's going to be the one that contains Rise of Iron. So what can we expect to see when we boot the game back up? Well, I'm not positive on this, but I would expect to see a full sandbox update with patch notes this evening. Don't expect it to be as drastic as the weapon rebalancing we saw in the Taken King, but small tweaks to certain archetypes would certainly be welcome. I also suspect we will see more on the 13th. Private matches and possibly a PvP map preview showing off all the new maps that will ship with Rise of Iron makes a lot of sense here, especially in the light of the MLG event that's happening on the same day. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Lord Saladin's axe starting to appear in Cosmodrome patrols. Purely conjecture, it's only based on how Bungie has handled like the Sword of Crota in the past with the Dark Below, but it would make a little sense and it would definitely increase the hype level a little bit, kind of be a little bit of fun for players going into Rise of Iron. So big news today. I expect there's going to be a lot more news to cover tonight and tomorrow morning. If there is a full patch notes detail, I will definitely be doing a video on that this evening. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. If you have anything that you'd like to see covered inside of Good Morning Guardians, let me know on Twitter. Use the hashtag Good Morning Guardians and hit that like button if you like the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.